Well, ESPN has been interested in cross-platform research for many years. In fact, this is probably our 12th year of doing research. And the reason we're so interested in it is that we're delivering content to sports fans on many different platforms. We have TV content, obviously, but we also have digital content on PCs, on smartphones, and now on tablets. We have a large radio network, so we have a lot of people who are listening to us on the radio. And of course, we have ESPN, the magazines, who are delivering content via print, too. So we want to keep track of how sports fans navigate from platform to platform. That's really the purpose of the research project. A few years ago, we put the whole thing under an umbrella initiative called ESPN XP. And the number one goal of ESPN XP was to turn cross-platform research from a special project. In other words, our first project was the World Cup. So for a month, we engaged, 18, 19, 20 companies in working on cross-platform measurement of our World Cup audiences. And when it was over, it was over. So it didn't tell us anything about our football audiences that year or our basketball audiences after that. What we want is something that is taking place every day. So 365 days a year, we can tell how people are using all the different platforms they can get ESPN content on. The main thing that we've gotten out of Project Blueprint so far really isn't about the findings. It's really the fact that it works at all. It was a big show. There are a lot of moving parts here, a lot of things that have been done for the first time, a lot of data that's being crunched by these companies, a lot of innovations that had to take place in order for this to work. And it wasn't clear at the beginning that this was a slam dunk. But so far, it's worked out really, really well. We hope that as we get the final integration and we get all 5 platforms, that we learn even more. But the learning part of it for us was the second goal. The first goal was to get this up and running and see that it worked. There really isn't any other way of measuring these 5 platforms on a continuous basis. That's really the difference. There are ways of getting at this all different platforms on a very short run. There are different companies that can do that. There are companies that can measure different pairs of media on a more or less continuous basis, but this is the first time that all 5 have been collected. I would also say that the methodology that's being used is sort of a combination of single source and hybrid measurement. It's a unique way of approaching the problem that enables it to be done at scale, meaning on a national basis. And that really was the big test of this, was to see if that methodology would work. This is the first time we've really been able to look at our tablet users in combination with other platforms. We're getting data from our server on how people use platforms on the tablets, obviously, but we're not really getting how they overall compare to other platforms and how they use other platforms. And we were pleasantly surprised to find that they were our number 1 users. They were spending over 19 hours with our content, which was way more than users of smartphones as a standalone, or television, or PCs. And it was not only because they were using the tablet, it was because they were using all these different platforms more. They were watching more TV, they were using PCs more, they were using smartphones above average. So they were our best customer because they were using all these different platforms. Project Blueprint really started as a pair of pilot projects done by the Coalition for Innovative Media Measurement, or CIM. So both Arbitron and comScore had projects that they put together, and we're members of CIM, so we were familiar with this work. What we were looking for was a way that the 2 of them could work together. Phase 1 is really all about ESPN, just seeing if they can measure our content and measure total media usage. Our dream for this would be that if it works, and so far it's working very well, that it is a solution that the industry could use to measure cross-platform use on a continuous basis. We can serve sports fans better if we really understand how they're using our content. Right now, it's our company's goal to serve all sports fans on all platforms. So we're going to do that anyway. It doesn't change really what we're doing. It helps us to understand, though, better how the customer is using the different platforms and using multiple platforms. So in the earliest days of multi-platform research for ESPN, the big question was, well, if people start using ESPN.com, does that mean they're going to stop watching ESPN on TV? And the answer was no, that multi-platform use is not zero-sum. The more platforms you use, the more time you spend, and it doesn't take away from things that you were doing already. So that was a big understanding. And it's understandings like that we hope to get out of Project Blueprint as we really start to dive into the data. We chose Arbitron and comScore because we were familiar with their work with these CIM projects. And so we knew that Arbitron was capable of building a single source panel, which they've done again for Project Blueprint. And we knew that comScore was doing this data integration process, which they're doing again with Project Blueprint. So they were right there, and they were looking for a way to take the pilot projects they had done for SIM and move on to the next phase. I think we just enabled them to do that. We brought them together and just suggested that this would be a good idea. And they were up for it, and that's where Project Blueprint got its start.